everyone, this is a recording of our 2019 fall series, Learn to Discern Beyond Digital Outrage, the Face of Homelessness. We had a live presentation, but we had a lot of technical difficulties, so we're just re-recording it, and this is the recorded version. So I'm Misty Wilson-Mertens, I'm the Chair of Social Sciences, and today I am being joined by Tara Perez, who works at the City of Fort Worth. Tara, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm the Directions Home Manager at City of Fort Worth in the City Manager's Office. Been there about 3.5 years.
Thank you so much for joining us, Tara. So we're going to talk today about homelessness in Tarrant County and just what that really looks like and trying to dispel some of the myths about it. So can you talk to us a little bit about what you see as the most important topics in homelessness and what you think our students need to know?
Okay, I think it's a good idea to go over the scope of homelessness. I think people often think there's so many more people experiencing homelessness than there actually are. And then we're going to talk about solutions, a little bit about what the city's doing and what citizens can do.
All right, so to get us started, what does this look like?
Okay, so it's a colleague and I. We're a two-person unit, and we administer about $3 million in funding for the city for homeless service agencies and housing programs.
Where does that $3 million in funding come from?
It's general funds, taxpayer dollars.
Awesome, thank you. So what is it you guys do with those funds?
Okay. So we have a competition for different homeless service providers on providing things like rapid rehousing, which is short-term assistance or permanent supportive housing. Other things we do are collaborate with community partners like the Homeless Coalition. For example, last year we did a 100-day veteran countdown where we tried to house 100 veterans in 100 days. Ended up housing 181.
Oh, that's awesome.
And this year we've just started Youth Challenge. And one of our newer roles is we're also trying to develop permanent supportive housing.
So can you kind of just give us a scope of what homelessness looks like in our city?
So we have about 2,000 people any given day that are experiencing homelessness. And this area is Tarrant and Parker counties. Now,
Okay.
The vast majority, about 83 to 85%, are within the city limits of Fort Worth. So what you see is the homeless population has decreased slightly in 10 years, but really very similar numbers throughout the 10 years. One of the things that's changed dramatically is the number of people who are sleeping outdoors. The percentage of the homeless population that's sleeping outdoors or unsheltered has dramatically increased.
So if I'm looking at this chart, those people that are sleeping outdoors, the unsheltered, that's blue.
Yes.
And then sheltered homeless means what?
People staying in emergency shelters.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And unsheltered would be cars, bridges, tents.
Okay. And yeah, I definitely can see that it's gone down a little bit. And I'm guessing maybe 2009, it's a little higher because of the recession? Or was that not related?
I am not sure.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to go off script
Okay.
and ask you something you don't know. Okay, so what are we looking at with this graph?
Okay, so this is just how our homeless system compares to 5 other Texas cities. And this is based on the HUD area. So as you can see, in all the cities, homelessness is a very, very small percentage of the general population. And right now, we have the second lowest percentage. The one that has really improved throughout the years has been Houston. They went from having a pretty high percentage of homelessness to doing very well.
And ours looks, I mean, I see a little change, but not too much, pretty flat. So how do we combat this problem?
So the solution to homelessness is housing, and sometimes some people need extra services, but people get there different ways. So some people just need some one-time assistance, and we call that diversion, try to keep people from entering the homeless system at all. There's a new program the city's funding called Rapid Exit. What this means is if you've been staying in the homeless shelter a while and you get a job, rather than stay there 3 or 4 months to save up for move-in expenses, because move-in expenses are a lot right now. And if you're homeless, you're probably going to have to pay fees that other people don't.
Oh, really?
Yes, like something called a high risk fee or an opportunity fee. So the less income you have, the more evictions or anything on your criminal record, the more likely you are to have to pay those fees. So sometimes it can cost $2,000 to move in. So what Rapid Exit says is, okay, great, you've got a job. Rather than staying here 3 or 4 months and saving up, move out now. Here's your one-time move-in assistance.
Okay.
And then our housing programs, those are reserved, they're limited, and they're reserved for people who have higher needs. So rapid rehousing helps people pay rent 6 to 12 months and has a case manager, like a social worker, helping them connect to employment usually.
Okay.
And permanent support, that's our most intensive, most expensive intervention. That's helping someone with their rent and having a case manager as long as they need it.
And so all of these, the goal is the same, to get somebody in a home.
Yes, it just takes different things for different folks.
And I guess I didn't ask this before, maybe I should have, but what reasons would people have for ending up homeless?
Okay. For the past 3 years, the top 2 reasons for men and women have been the same: unemployment or underemployment and inability to pay rent. The third reason for men this year was substance abuse issues, and the third reason for women this year was domestic violence issues.
Okay. So when we're looking at adding housing, how do we generally do that?
Okay, so the city has been able to add some permanent supportive housing. When affordable housing projects come before council to get support, they include a very small percentage, 5% of permanent supportive housing. And so these are some of the new developments that have a little bit of permanent supportive housing.
So that would be like 10 apartments within the senior villa?
Yes.
Okay.
And so this is just some of the changes in Directions Home. We've worked with our partners in neighborhood services to have a pool of funding just to get permanent supportive housing developed. That's $5 million from Housing Finance Corporation. This year, our big focus has been on families also. We're putting nearly $1 million toward reducing family homelessness.
Well, and I see it says youth homelessness here. Does that mean under the age of 18? Or does that mean?
So it's a good question. Youth in the homeless world is 18 to 25.
Okay.
Because we're housing people and you can't sign a lease under 18.
Oh, that makes sense.
So it's really more young adults, but they use the term youth.
So what am I looking at in this slide?
We just really want people to think about the results of their actions. I think a lot of people want to help people experiencing homelessness, and that's great, to have that compassion and generosity. But we have a situation right now where there's so much food and so much clothes being wasted, and it's trashing East Lancaster. So we have so many groups going every weekend, it just creates this huge pile of trash.
Okay, so we've definitely seen like volunteer groups that go down and do a sandwich feeding once a month or something like that. And you're saying that actually is creating a new problem?
Yes. A lot of that food isn't eaten and it's discarded and it's creating a lot of trash. And the situation is the shelters offer meals, and there are other groups too that offer meals. So food is not a big need. When I first started in this work, I asked a lot of folks, what do you need? And asked people until we kept getting the same 3 answers. A bus pass, help me find a job, and a cheap 1-bedroom apartment. No one ever said to food, because there's an overabundance of food.
So groups are trying to do something really good, but they're
Yes.
solving a problem that doesn't really exist.
Yes.
Okay. So what are we looking at here?
So this is just an alternative to kind of the food and clothes going just to East Lancaster in the shelter district. Our system moves people into housing 10 to 14 households a week, but a lot of times they lack basic necessities, silverware, towels, things like that. And so groups can create welcome baskets, like a youth group could create, or a Sunday school class could create a welcome basket. And that'll be a big help when someone moves into their apartment.
Yeah, I had never thought about towels. I mean, of course, people need towels. That's obvious, but I just didn't think about it.
Yeah, cleaning supplies, just very basic things. And we move people into unfinished apartments. And so sometimes it can be months for a case manager to scrounge up a bed or a mattress. So we have people sleeping on the floor. So another thing that people could do is donate furniture or volunteer at Tarrant County Furniture Bank, because they're directed at helping people exiting homelessness to get their furniture.
And so this is an organization where I know what I'm giving them goes directly to the homeless.
Yes.
I guess there's not very much, waste in that.
Right.
And do we have contact information for them? Or just Google it? Perfect. We can put that in the video comments then.
Another alternative is some organizations are looking to do more than donate, but want some relational, kind of personal involvement. And so our pilot project with faith communities could be a good way to plug in. One of the things that happens when people move into housing is sometimes it can be very isolating if they don't have transportation and they're missing our community. And so we want to kind of pull people out of their apartments and have those opportunities to form relationships and to socialize. And so faith-based organizations are just bringing food, kind of like a potluck, and playing bingo and games at community centers with our folks that are housed.
So it's kind of addressing the emotional needs,
yes,
as well as those physical needs.
And the last and maybe biggest contribution people can make is that a lot of times we're trying to house people that are homeless, because again, housing is the only thing that solves homelessness. But when people object to it because of their stereotypes of the homeless, it actually creates more homeless.
So I could say, like, I want the homeless to be helped, but I want them to be helped on the other side of town.
Oh yes, that's very common. It's very common. But what happens when everybody says that, then we can't do any housing for people exiting homelessness, which means we have a lot more homelessness.
So how do we combat that attitude? What can we do?
I think the best thing is to ask questions, because people just make a lot of assumptions. And so I would just, make a list of all your questions, and rather than turning to something like SOAR, which kind of
or Facebook or Twitter,
yeah, which can kind of fan the flames, ask, who's designing this project? Is there somebody on site? Who are folks? And just really get that information and kind of process that rather than let fear take over.
That's great advice. Well, thank you for doing this, and actually thank you for doing it twice since we had so many technical difficulties.
You're
we really
welcome.
do appreciate that. And then for students that are listening to this later, we do have a link that's live for 48 hours. So today is Wednesday. Link will be up until Friday. If you're watching after Friday, contact your instructor and they will tell you how to get credit. And just as a reminder, these are the sessions we have coming up left in this semester. We're going to talk about ID politics, and I think Professor Thurman, are you on the cults and secret societies one?
I'm not, but that sounds like a fun one. That's got to be.
That's got to be a legger then.
Yes,
Legger
yes.
Hannah. And then I'll be doing from outrage to action, how do we move into being problem solvers? So we look forward to everybody joining us for those, and we really appreciate you taking the time to watch this. Thank you.